Welcome to the stage, Adiato Baldé.
So I have a question for you. What is your superpower? So while you're thinking about that, let me just tell you a story about the place, a beautiful place where I was born 31 years ago, a place called Guinea-Bissau. So Guinea-Bissau is a country in West Africa, a very beautiful place. The food, I'm telling you, the best ever. The women are so beautiful. The weather is just the most tropical one that you can find. And there are these beautiful islands. I mean, if I had to describe that place with one word, I would say that Guinea-Bissau is a paradise. But you know, when I was born in that paradise 31 years ago, not every kid had the right to go to school, especially if they were girls. So I want to tell you a story. It's a story about powerful women that are from that beautiful paradise in West Africa. Let me ask you another question before we go back to the first one. What is your superpower? So you're probably thinking about Avengers, Marvel, Wonder Woman, Superman, but no, it's nothing to do with that. My superpower is called education. And the question that I want to ask you is, have you ever heard about female genital mutilation? If not, I'm going to tell you what is it. So female genital mutilation is a practice that consists in the total or partial removal of external genitalia of girls. So it's a practice that made to little girls at the very young age, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, and even in babies. So it is estimated that 200 million women alive today are living with the consequences of female genital mutilation. And it's also estimated that every year, 3 million of girls are in risk to be submitted to this awful practice. So you're probably thinking, if there is no medical reason behind it, why people are still doing it? Why are they still cutting these little girls? You see, those people belonging to those communities where female genital mutilation is just a normal thing, they believe that by doing so, they are protecting those little girls from, protecting their virginity, preparing them to the marriage, because those things are just important in this type of community. But actually, there is no logic behind it. There is no benefit from that practice. It's actually something harmful, painful, that put lives in danger. So now you're probably thinking, what is my superpower had to do with female genital mutilation? But I'm going to explain to you. You see, my mother, she was submitted to female genital mutilation when she was 9 years old. But me and my sisters, we didn't. And this is where the superpower comes along. The difference between my mother and her mother, it's actually that superpower, because they're from the same community. But what changed and why me and my sisters were not submitted to female genital mutilation, it's because my mother had the privilege to go to school, to educate herself, to unleash her superpower. And that was what saved us, what saved me and my sisters from being submitted to this awful practice. So you see, you remember when I was telling you in the beginning that not every kid had the right to go to school. I've realized that in a very complicated situation when I asked my grandmother to read something for me, and she couldn't. So I went to my mom and said, "Your mother doesn't know how to read. She forgot." And my mom said, "No, she didn't. She just never learned how to read." I then started to realize that my life was like a world where not everybody was inside, because my grandmother didn't have the privilege to go to school like those kids around me as well. So that made me realize the privilege around this superpower, which is knowledge through education. You see, my mother, she was submitted to female genital mutilation twice. She was 9 years old, as I told you before. They hold her hands and legs apart. And then when she realized what was going to happen, she started to fight. And then those ladies, they cut her once. But because she was fighting, they thought that they didn't cut her enough. So they did cut her twice. So that was something really bad that happened to my mother, a huge violence, that she still living with the consequences of this practice, physically, emotionally. So it's just something that affects you in every way. So she decided that she was going to do something about that. She's now the face of the institutions that fight against all sorts of traditional practices that put little girls' lives in danger. So she decided to give her voice, her face for this fight and to protect those little girls. You see, this fire inside my mother, it's something that I also have. Remember when I told you about realizing that not everybody around me had the same type of life, the same privilege, the same superpower? I've also started to dedicate my life to those fights. So since little girl at the age of 10, I've joined my neighborhood association, and the goal of that association was actually to fight for children's rights, because we had so many kids that couldn't go to school because they were working. So the goal was to help them, to empower them, to make some noise to those people that had power to change those children's lives. So my life was, while growing up, was all about, going to school and putting myself in every kind of social activity that I could that was involved in protecting little girls, fighting for women's rights, gender equality, all sorts of things. But then, like Martin Luther King Jr., I had a dream as well. And my big dream was to become a doctor. That was my life dream. For some reason, I believed that if I became a doctor, I would have more tools to protect those women, those little girls from those harmful practices. Then Portugal became my second home, and I've realized that I couldn't become a doctor. And that was the big disappointment of my life. I was just in shock. I've lost my faith. I didn't want to leave anymore. I was just, if I'm not going to become a doctor, I don't want to study. I don't care anymore. But then a friend of my mom advised us to go to pharmacy. So we did. So I went to university and started to study pharmacy. And I soon realized that being a doctor wasn't the only way. I could actually change people's lives through what I was learning at that time. I realized that I was about to become a scientist, and that was just amazing. And then obviously in Portugal as well, my life was all around going to school and put myself involved in everything that was, related to women, fighting violence against women, domestic violence, all sorts of stuff like that. But then everything was good. My life was happy, was good, until I started to work. My professional career wasn't what I was expecting. I started to work in a community pharmacy, and I then realized that I hated that. That wasn't what I want for me. That wasn't fulfilling me. And then I thought that the issue was my education. I wasn't educated enough. So I went back to university and studied to become a specialist, because in my head, that was what missing. And then when I finished that, I realized that the problem wasn't my education. The problem was just the lack of opportunities. So then I've moved to the UK. Everything was good. I've started to work in a pharmaceutical company as I wanted. But then something happened. Something bad happened to me. But let me just go very clear here. What happened to me is nothing nothing compared to female genital mutilation. But it was bad for me, and that thing changed my life. So what happened was that my skin changed. My skin, due to this amazing weather in the UK, my skin became very, very dry, like very, very dry. I can't even describe it. I was literally walking around with a bottle of body lotion because I had the need to reapply the cream along the day. And it was just, frustrating because I couldn't find anything to help myself. That was when I remember that I had a superpower. I had a scientific knowledge that allowed me to create my own skincare product. So I did. So I've started to create my own skin and hair care products, sharing those products with friends and family, and started to realize there was so many people in the same situation, people that were struggling as well with finding the right product for their skin. So all this idea about creating a business around cosmetic formulation started to come to my mind. But as my mother, that she's using her superpower to fight female genital mutilation, to empower people to actually understand that there's no health benefits from that practice, I also had this fire inside me to educate, to share my knowledge through education. So I've decided to create a school to teach people how to make their own skincare products. And well, this happened last year. I gave birth to my amazing online school, which is an e-learning platform teaching people how to make their own cosmetics. So I've literally discovered my real passion in life. So you guys might probably wondering now, what is that formulating cosmetics has to do with female genital mutilation and superpowers? Probably nothing in your head, but in my head, there is a big place where all these things combine together, and it's just amazing. Why? Because I want the entire world to know that female genital mutilation is something bad that still happens to girls these days in different parts of the world. And I want everybody to stand against it because it's just something harmful, bad. It's a truly violence against women's rights. But at the same time, I also want you to be powerful enough to be able to create your own skincare products, and solve your skincare problems through the use of natural ingredients, which means through education. So what I've decided to create, I've created a program that is going to involve skincare, hair care, and soap making. And what's going to happen, how this is going to connect with female genital mutilation, it's very simple. This program, for every purchase that you guys made through my school, I am going to donate 10% of that investment to that institution that my mother represents, because it's an institution that works day and night to protect those little girls from being submitted to female genital mutilation. So see, you're protecting those little girls at the same time that you're protecting your skin. So it's a win-win in my head. It's the way that I found to actually support those little girls and at the same time do what I love, which is cosmetic formulation. So basically, my goal here today, why I am here today, is to shout, to put my voice out and to let you know that there is something really bad going on, which is called female genital mutilation, that little girls are submitted to, and that's something that just carries a lot of physical, and psychological impacts for the rest of their life. It's something really bad, harmful, that we should all put an end to it. But at the same time, I want to tell you that you could be powerful enough to create your own skincare products. Imagine that skincare problem that you have and you just don't know how to fix it. You can fix it by yourself. And then this is why I'm inviting you to join me, to join my program so we can work together and change people's life. I want you to allow me to share with you my superpower through education and save people's lives. Thank you.